Just tell them you fell down the stairs. Remember, Lauren, family protects family. My mother whispered urgently, gripping my arm as we sat in the emergency room. My head throbbed with every word, and the fluorescent lights sent sharp pains through my skull. Beside her, my sister Nina was lounging in a hospital chair, scrolling through her phone as if we were waiting for coffee, not sitting in the ER after I'd hit my head on the kitchen counter. My name is Lauren Chun, and at 24, I'd been living a nightmare that had been building for years. My older sister, Nina, who's 2 years older, was always moody. But her parents had mastered the art of overlooking it. They'd say, "She's just emotional, you need to understand her better." Understanding Nina meant accepting her anger, her jealousy, and her escalating violence. But this time was different. This time there were witnesses. It all started at the Sunday dinner table. I had just been accepted into medical school, something I had worked towards for years. As my parents offered lukewarm congratulations, watching Nina's reaction with bated breath, my sister's face went stone. "Medical school," she said sarcastically, "and you're still trying to prove you're the smartest." Before I could reply, she grabbed my hair and slammed my head against the table. The last thing I remember is our neighbor, Mrs. Henderson's, terrified scream from the doorway as she was bringing back a casserole dish. As I sat in the emergency room, the room spinning around me, I heard my mother's panicked voice. "Mrs. Henderson understands it was an accident. She won't say anything now. We need to focus on keeping this quiet." A sharp pain shot through my temples, and I fought off nausea. The door opened and Dr. Reese entered, her expression serious as she reviewed the medical file in her hands. "Lauren, this is Dr. Reese. Can you tell me what happened?" I opened my mouth to speak, but my mother spoke first. "She fell down the stairs. An accident." "Really? We just want to make sure she's okay." Dr. Reese's eyes narrowed slightly. She looked directly at me, ignoring my mother's interruption. "Lauren, can you tell me what happened?" "I told you," Nina said, finally looking up from her phone. "I fell. Can we get some painkillers and go?" "I want to hear from Lauren," Dr. Reyes said firmly. "And I want to speak with her privately." "Impossible," my mother protested. "She's confused from the fall. We have to stay with her." "Mrs. Chun, hospital policy is that I speak with patients privately in cases of head injuries. Please wait outside." "Mom, it's okay," I whispered, my voice trembling. My mother tightened her grip on my arm. "Remember what we talked about, Lauren. Family first." As they left the room, Nina gave me a warning look that made me feel sick. The door closed, and suddenly the room breathed a sigh of relief. Dr. Reese pulled up a chair, and her kind eyes met mine. "Lauren," I reviewed the initial CT scan. "The pattern of injury doesn't match a fall down the stairs." My heart pounded. Years of silence, of protecting Nina, of being a perfect daughter who hadn't caused any problems. It all weighed heavily on my chest. "The scans show a point of impact," she continued, showing the images on her tablet, "and there are signs of previous injuries that haven't received any medical treatment. I want you to tell me the truth. Did this happen to you?" My eyes filled with tears. "If I tell you," I whispered, "it will destroy my family." "If you don't tell me," she replied gently, "it could destroy your life. I've seen how these injuries worsen. They're getting worse, aren't they?" I nodded, wincing at the movement. "There was a witness," I said finally, my voice barely audible. "Our neighbor, Mrs. Henderson. She saw everything." Dr. Reese made a note in my file. "Can you tell me what really happened?" And so it did. The words flowed not just about today, but about years of incidents that weren't incidents at all. About Nina's escalating violence. About my parents' deliberate silence. About the constant pressure to maintain peace at any cost. Dr. Reese confirmed, her pen pausing on the page. "Your sister did this." I whispered. "Yes, but my parents will never admit it. They'll say I'm lying." She said firmly, "They won't have to admit it. Medical evidence, witness testimony, and most of all, your testimony, that's all we need. Lauren, as your doctor, I cannot and will not put you back in a dangerous situation." For the first time since arriving at the hospital, I felt something other than fear, something that seemed like hope. The door suddenly opened, and my mother rushed back inside. "It's been a long time," she said. "We're taking her home now." Dr. Reese stood there, as if protecting her. "Actually, Ms. Chun, Lauren isn't going anywhere tonight, and I've already contacted the patient advocacy team and the hospital's legal team." My mother's face went pale. "What?" I said in a louder voice than I expected. "Mom, I told her the truth about everything." The look of betrayal on my mother's face would have crushed me an hour ago. But now, with Dr. Reyes by my side, it felt like the first step toward freedom. "Lauren, what have you done?" my mother whispered. "She did what she should have done years ago," Dr. Reyes answered for me. "Now, Ms. Chun, you can either leave voluntarily or I'll have security escort you out." As my mother retreated from the room, I caught a glimpse of Nina's face through the doorway. For the first time in my life, my sister looked frightened, and I, at last, felt safe. The next 48 hours were a whirlwind of events. Dr. Reyes's intervention triggered a chain of events that my family was unable to control or silence. Mrs. Henderson testified, describing in detail how she witnessed the assault on Nina. Rebecca, the hospital's patient officer, sat with me for hours documenting the case, photographing the old injuries and recording my testimony. During her morning rounds, Dr. Reyes explained, "Your CT scan showed evidence of at least 3 previous concussions. You haven't received any professional treatment for any of them. Can you tell me about those incidents?" I could. Each one was perfectly clear in my memory, even though my family had different versions of these stories. The time Nina pushed me off the balcony because I got better grades. My parents said I was careless. The Christmas day she threw a paperweight at my head because I got the tutoring she wanted. They said I should have bowed down. The day she beat me unconscious because her boyfriend said I was pretty. They said I shouldn't have provoked her. Rebecca gently told me, "We have enough evidence to bring charges. The decision is yours. But you should know that this pattern of violence usually escalates without intervention." My mother tried to call me every hour, leaving voicemails that oscillated between pleading and threatening. In one message, she screamed, "You're destroying this family after everything we've done for you." Nina's messages were simpler and more direct. "You'll regret this. Nobody likes a snitch." But for once, I found support. Dr. Reese made sure I was never left alone, assigning guards to my room when she wasn't there herself. The nurses kept a list of approved visitors that excluded my family. Even Mrs. Henderson visited me, bringing me my favorite tea, and she looked as if she had years of guilt in her eyes. "I should have told you something sooner," she confessed, clutching her bag. "I've seen things over the years and heard things. We've all seen and heard things in the neighborhood. But your parents were brilliant at justifying everything." I didn't blame her. I'd been making excuses for myself for years. The police came to take my statement, and Detective Elena Morgan listened to me without prejudice as I recounted years of abuse. She told me, "Your sister has a history. 2 complaints from former roommates and 1 from a former boyfriend. All of them fell for it. You're the first one to stand up for him." That night, alone in my hospital room, I received a call from my father. Using his old nickname, he said to me, "My princess, this is out of control. Your mother is devastated. Nina could lose her job if the news gets out. We can sort this out as a family, like we always have." "By pretending it never happened?" I asked, and I was surprised by the composure of my voice. "She's your sister," he pleaded, adding, "Blood is thicker than water." I replied, "Blood is exactly what worries me, Dad. My blood is on your kitchen table, and you and Mom are watching." He paused for a moment. "What do you want?" "I want Nina to get help. Real help. And I want you and Mom to stop pretending this is normal. If we don't, I'll let the police report and medical records speak for themselves." After I ended the call, I lay in the dark thinking about the word family. For years, it had meant silence, submission, and accepting pain as a form of love. But Dr. Reyes had shown me a different kind of care, professional, assertive, and protective. She had done what a family should do. She had kept me safe. The next morning, my mother came to the hospital, but not to see me. She had a meeting with the hospital administration, trying to prevent the mandatory reporting of domestic violence. I heard her insist from behind the door, "It's a private family matter." Dr. Reyes replied firmly, "No, Ms. Chun, abuse is a crime, no matter who commits it." As security escorted my mother out, I caught a glimpse of her face. She looked older and somewhat smaller, as if the weight of all her secrets had become too much for her to bear. Detective Morgan visited me again, this time with news. "We're going to be charging Nina with assault," she said. "The prosecutor believes we have a strong case, especially with the witness testimony and the medical evidence. Are you prepared to testify if necessary?" I thought of Nina's text messages, my mother's tears, and my father's pleas. Then I thought of Dr. Reyes, who had been watching over me like the older sister I should have had. "Yes," I said, "I'm prepared to tell the truth." As I signed the official complaint, I felt something change inside me. The fog of fear that had long shrouded my life began to lift. For the first time, I was not only surviving my family, but confronting them. Dr. Reese came in for her evening rounds and smiled when she saw me sitting and working on medical school applications on my laptop. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "I'm feeling better," I replied, and I meant it. She nodded. "Good. Because tomorrow we're starting to prepare for what's coming next. Your family isn't going to make it easy." "I know," I said, "but I'm not alone anymore." She squeezed my hand. "No, you're not. And you never will be." 6 months later, I sat in the courtroom watching Nina plead guilty to assault. My sister, who had always seemed so much of a character, looked frail in her formal attire. The judge's terms were clear: mandatory anger management sessions, therapy, and a restraining order preventing her from coming near me. My parents sat behind her, their faces masked with displeasure, not at Nina's actions but at my betrayal in filing the lawsuit. They hadn't spoken to me since I refused to drop the case, except through their lawyer. But their silence no longer seemed like punishment. It was a form of peace. The defendant will also pay compensation for medical expenses, the judge announced, and complete the domestic violence intervention program. I caught a glimpse of Dr. Reese's gaze from where she sat beside me. She had taken the day out of her day to be here, just as she had been by my side every step of the way. After I was discharged from the hospital, she helped me find an apartment near medical school, away from my family's influence. She wrote me a letter of recommendation, citing my resilience in the face of adversity. "You have shown the courage we need in medicine," she told me, "the ability to stand up for what is right, even when it is difficult." As we left the courthouse, my mother tried one last time. Her voice trembling, she called out, "Lauren, please, we can still fix this. We're a family." I turned to her, not seeing the determined figure I'd known as a child, but a woman who had failed to protect her daughter. "No, Mum, you can't fix this. But maybe Nina can fix herself now." My father stood silently behind her, his face expressionless. Nina was already being led away by her lawyer, her back straight, her steps measured. I wondered if she was finally beginning to understand the consequences of her actions. I said calmly, "I'm sorry you lost your daughters, but I'm not sorry I saved myself." That evening, I had a simple dinner in my new apartment. Dr. Reese was there, along with Mrs. Henderson, Detective Morgan, and Rebecca from patient support. These women had become my support system, my chosen family. Today, while eating dessert, I announced, "I've received my acceptance letter to medical school." The hall erupted in cheers. Mrs. Henderson insisted, "I'll pay the first-round tuition. Consider this an intervention that's been years in the making." Dr. Reyes smiled and said, "You'll be a wonderful doctor. You already understand something that many doctors don't learn. Sometimes saving a patient means standing up to their family." After my guests left, I stood at my window looking at the city lights. My phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. It was Nina. "I'm starting therapy tomorrow. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know that I now understand what I did and what they allowed me to do. I'm sorry." I didn't reply, but I saved the message. Perhaps one day, after lengthy therapy sessions and a long time, we can build something new, something healthier. But for now, I need to focus on my healing. The next morning, I began my first day as a volunteer in the hospital's trauma unit. Dr. Reyes had suggested it as a valuable experience before I started medical school. My first patient was a young woman with suspicious bruises, and her husband stood anxiously nearby. I saw myself in her sad eyes and recognized the familiar excuses, but now I knew what to do. "I need to speak with her privately," I told the husband firmly, using Dr. Reyes' professional authority. He objected, as did my mother, but hospital security forced him to leave. Once we were alone, I told the woman, "You're safe here. Everything you tell me will remain confidential between us and the medical team." She burst into tears, revealing secrets that had accumulated over the years. I took her hand, as others had taken mine, and began the process of documenting the paperwork that would help her gain her freedom. That evening, Dr. Reese found me updating patient records. "Was your first day good?" she asked. "I helped someone just as you helped me," I replied simply. She nodded approvingly and said, "That's how we break the cycle of suffering, patient by patient." My phone rang. Another message from my mother. I deleted it without reading it. Some relationships need to remain strained in order to illuminate the path forward. "Are you ready for the tour?" Dr. Reyes asked, offering me an extra cup of coffee. I stood up and adjusted my volunteer badge. 6 months ago, I was a victim in this hospital. Now, I'm helping others regain their voice and strength and find their way out of their ordeal. I replied, "Ready," and I meant it in every sense of the word. As we walked through the hospital corridors, I reflected on how far I had come. My family wanted me to remain silent, to accept violence as love, to choose silence over safety. But I chose truth, healing, and a different kind of family, one built on protection, not permission, on support, not silence. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is tell the truth, even when those closest to us want us to lie. My truth cost me my family, but it gave me something far more precious, myself.
अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं ये जो दिन सहाने थे उन्हीं को सोचता हूँ मैं तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा बेसर्द लगता है दिल का हर एक कोना अब बहुत ही दूर भरता है अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं ये जो दिन सुहाने थे उन्हीं को सोच सोचता हूँ मैं तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा सर्द लगता है। दिल का हर एक कोना अब बहुत ही दर्द भरता है। मेरे साए भी मुझसे अब जुदा होने को कहते हैं। तुझे खोने की राहों में ये आंसू बहने लगते हैं। कहाँ जाऊं कहाँ ढूंढूं मेरा वो साजो सामा तो मेरी हर एक तमन्ना तू मेरी रूह का मका तू। लकीरों में नहीं लिखा जो तुमने ख्वाब देखा था। वफा की इस कहानी में फकत एक गम ही लिखा था। सितारों से भी पूछता है पता तेरा कहाँ होगा, मगर खामोश है दुनिया कहाँ मेरा जहाँ होगा। बस एक बार मुड़ के देख ले मेरी बेबसी की सूरत। मुझे है आज भी तेरी वफा की सख्त जरूरत। साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर। साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर, दर्द का